I'm Hugh and I'm delighted to have teamed up with ZOE to bring you a bunch of fantastic seasonal plant-packed recipes to help you nurture your gut microbiome. Being healthy and feeling good is something we can all be working towards, and it's increasingly clear that our gut health is absolutely central to this. For me, eating seasonally and eating healthily are completely aligned. What I really like about the ZOE approach is that it's not a kind of restrictive list of do's and don'ts and things you're not supposed to eat. It's all about adding in the good stuff, just making sure that whatever you're eating, there's loads of great plants in there. That's what my recipes are based around. Seasonal plants, gathered at their best, taken into the kitchen and made delicious to help you nurture your gut microbiome. So I hope you'll join me here at River Cottage with ZOE throughout the seasons for a bunch of plant-packed recipes that are going to make you feel great. I love picking veg at this time of year, and just coming into real autumn now. And although a lot of the summer veg are pretty much over, we've pulled up the last of the courgettes and the beans are gone, there's so much exciting stuff coming on. We've got all these beautiful leafy greens, the celery's finally ready, the kale is just going bonanza, there's beautiful squashes to be had. It really is a great harvest time. So much bounty to be had in the garden right now. And I'm sitting between two different varieties of kale, two of my favourites in fact. That is so sweet. Really one of my favourite types of kale. But then so is this one. This is Cavolo Nero, which means black kale in Italian. It's often just called Tuscan kale. You can see it's got a different shaped leaf, different colour. These leaves are slightly thicker. They take a little bit more cooking. The stem is quite coarse, so I tend to just strip that out. That will go on the compost heap, or I can feed it to my chickens. And then you're left with this beautiful deep green leaf. A brilliant soup vegetable, just shredded and thrown into a big vegetable soup. And that's, I think, the direction we're heading in today. In terms of my plant count, 2 different varieties of kale equals 2 different plants. So that's a +2. These leeks are looking fantastic. Oh, I got it up without the roots. I'm a big fan of double or triple alliums in my cooking. I often put garlic, leeks and onions, or garlic, leeks and shallots into a dish. They're such wonderfully flavoured vegetables and they just bring that incredible aromatic quality. Perfect for a soup, which is definitely where we're heading. These are all vegetables you can find locally, in your greengrocers, farmer's market, or even at the supermarket. They're all in season right now, and you won't have any trouble finding them. Most of them, that is. Still small, not so easy to find in the shops, but it's called Chioggia, and it's actually white with a pink stripe through it, so it doesn't turn everything purple. And the great thing about picking these fairly baby beetroot is that the leaves are still great. These can be added to the soup just like the charred leaves. They'll be delicious. Among the roses, or even almost crowding out the roses, is fantastic crop of nasturtiums. The flowers are a fantastic bright splash of orange, but they're also really delicious. And if you've never eaten one before, you're in for a little bit of a shock, because after the first couple of bites, you get heat. I mean, they're really peppery, a little bit sweet as well. Absolutely delicious and incredibly easy to grow. You can grow them in a container or a pot on a patio, and they'll just go mad, especially if you give them something to climb up, like this. I'm also interested in the leaves. They're not quite as pungent as the flowers. They're milder. You can tumble them through a salad, which is really, really nice. They're not going in my soup or a salad. I'm going to put them into the thing that goes into the soup. All will be revealed. I can't pass up on this incredibly abundant thyme. That's such a pungent herb. It's almost too much when it's like this, a handful in your hand. But Just a little in so many dishes goes a long way. It's brilliant in soups and stews, great with meat, great with fish, and actually really good in a salad dressing too, but you don't need a lot of it. So I better not get too carried away. I was talking about doubling or even tripling your alliums, and I've just walked past these chives and they're irresistible. So today I'm quadrupling my alliums. It's these tender little spikes. They really pack an awful lot of allium punch. I love chives. That'll be plenty. I've been making versions of this soup for, probably a couple of decades, and for a while now I've been calling it half the garden soup. That's because I like to put at least half the vegetable garden in, and maybe a few things from the store cupboard as well. I think by the time this dish is finished, we will have racked up a lot of plants. 20 plus easy, maybe pushing 25. But let's get started because that oil is hot. These finely chopped shallots are ready for a sizzle. Let's go. This soup begins in a pretty classic way, like so many other soups. These are the little sticks of celery that I gathered from the garden. I'm just going to chop them while the alliums are sizzling. This is such a classic way to start a soup, sizzling onions, celery and carrots, but the Italians have a word for it. They call it sofrito. Sometimes tomatoes go in as well. I've got them standing by, but in my case they're going in the end. You can sizzle fairly hard, but you do have to keep an eye on the veg because essentially you want it just golden and tender, not browned or burnt. Carrots in. So my sofrito is underway. Time for allium number 3, garlic chopped. And why not allium number 4? Leeks. So we've got onions, shallots, garlic and leeks all in the same soup. All related, but in each case those oniony, garlicky flavours are subtly different. And what they do for your health is subtly different too. They're all going to have different phytonutrients, different amounts of fibre. And what we know about this multi-plant approach to eating is that it isn't just the individual qualities of the plants, it's the interaction between them that counts for a lot. We'll whack up the heat a bit now. All the tougher, more fibrous vegetables go in first, the things that are going to take a little bit more cooking. But it's interesting to think about not just the sheer number of plants, but the different groups of plants we've got here. I've mentioned the 4 alliums. We've got roots in the form of carrots and beetroot. We've got leafy greens, the chard, both the leaf and the stem, the 2 types of kale. We've got beans. I've got 2 tins of beans that are going to go in, cannellini beans and borlotti beans. These are store cupboard staples, but they're a great addition to a big soup like this. And I've got some frozen peas. But these are not processed either. They're literally frozen within an hour or 2 of being picked. So these are good quality ingredients. Just because they're store cupboard staples or they come from the freezer, it doesn't mean they're not whole, natural, unprocessed ingredients. Very happy putting them in my soup. Remember the chard that we picked in the garden? Here are the stems. They need to go in fairly early because they're quite tough and fibrous, but delicious. And here are the leaves, which I'll add right at the end. Next up, chard stems. Probably a good time to get the beetroot in too. And remember, this is the stripy beetroot. It's a beautiful pink, but it's not going to turn the whole soup pink or purple. A late breaking ingredient, one of the first of our autumn squashes. Look at the colour of that. I've just trimmed the skin off the edge, cut myself a nice wedge, and I'm going to chop it up and stick it in the pot. Look at those colours, isn't that just fantastic? In go the runner beans. And now to make sure that these harder, more fibrous ingredients get tender, it's time to add a little liquid to our soup. You could get away with plain water because there's so much flavour in the veg, but I'm going to add just a tiny bit of our River Cottage organic vegetable stock. This has got garlic and herbs in. It's also got fennel seeds, basil and bay leaf. That's 3 extra ingredients we could add to our count, but that might be considered a little bit cheeky. So just a smidge of the organic stock paste into the hot water. And that's just going to give it a little bit of umami backbone along with all the other glorious veg flavours. In goes the stock. Just enough to almost cover the veg. Brings up those colours beautifully. Now we want to bring it up to a gentle simmer to get those veg tender, and then we're really starting to think about finishing the soup. We've definitely got 10 veg in there so far by my count, and we've got at least another 6 to go. And they won't take long at all, so they just go in for the last few minutes. The 2 kales, which I'll shred in a minute, the peas, the 2 beans, and tomatoes. They've been skinned, de-seeded and chopped. They're just going to bring a beautiful sweetness and richness to finish this dish. I've been putting plants more and more at the centre of my cooking for getting on for a decade now, but it's an everlasting journey which I'm really enjoying. And one thing that's changed a lot in the last few years is I'm eating a lot more pulses. Tins of beans like this feature in my cooking at least a couple of times a week, or otherwise lentils, another great source of fibre. And I think this is one thing where most of us have got a lot of room to get busy with the beans. When I'm shredding kale, I just scrunch it into a big ball. Now we know that kale and all the other brassicas are really good for us. And of course, part of that is the fibre. They've also got some really amazing nutrients, one of which is called sulforaphane. Cabbage is famous for, if it gets overboiled, it smells a bit sort of sulfury, farty, dare I say. Actually, that sulforaphane is a really good key ingredient that gives our biome a real boost. So for me, this kale's just going to have the last 5 minutes of the soup's cooking time, and it won't be boiling away for an hour. So you won't be smelling or tasting that sulforaphane, but it will be there doing your biome a whole load of good. The kale goes in. The Tuscan kale goes in. That's the one that's slightly tougher and more fibrous. Will take a tiny bit longer. I think we could do with a splash more stock. It's only taken 20 minutes for this whole soup to come together, and we're nearly done. Last 2 leafy greens going in, the Russian kale and the charred leaves. Remember, the stalks are already in there. And I think we can pop these peas in. We are going to need the rest of that stock just to cover all the veg. Twist of pepper. I'll taste it for salt right at the end, but our stock has a little bit of salt in it. Tomatoes, de-seeded and chopped. Lovely bit of sweetness going to go in there. This is going to be full to the brim, but it's not quite going to bubble over. Look at that, look at those colours. Into the soup to jog my memory about the plants we've got in there. 4 alliums, carrots, celery, chard, 2 kales, beetroot, squash, peas, runner beans. Let's not forget the extra virgin rapeseed oil that I sizzled the shallots in. That is a natural cold pressed oil. It's not refined and it's not processed, and it counts as a plant. The pepper counts as a plant too. Herbs and spices definitely count. So that brings us to 15. Borlotti beans, 16. Cannellini beans, 17. We've got 17 plants in that soup, and every one a winner. A good time to just go down to the bottom and bring everything up to the top and make sure everything's really well mixed together. It's when I make big plant-packed soups like this for myself and my family that I feel really confident that I'm doing my body a load of good. It's boosting my gut biome. That in turn is boosting my immune system. And with the weather getting colder and the days getting shorter, that's a really good way to protect yourself from the winter viruses and colds to come. There's so many plants in this soup, but guess what? We're not going to stop there. So if you're wondering what this glorious greenery in front of me and these beautiful seeds, nuts and kernels are for, they're going to be part of my pesto omega. Loads of natural omega oils in my hemp kernels, walnuts and pumpkin seeds. Yep, 3 different nuts and seeds going into my pesto. No basil, because that's pretty much finished in our garden, but I have got beautiful flat leaf parsley and those last things I picked in the garden, the nasturtium leaves, the fresh thyme and the chives. They're all going in my pesto. But I better get on with it, chop, 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 because the soup is very nearly ready. If you're keeping your ZOE score, as I know many of you are, you'll probably already have picked up the tip that adding nuts and seeds to your cooking is a brilliant way to boost your score. I'm going to start by chopping together a handful of walnuts and a handful of pumpkin seeds. What I'm looking for in the end is a mixture of seeds that are quite well chopped and others that are almost whole. But I'm just going to put a bit of garlic on the side there and a sprinkle of coarse salt, and just mash that together with the side of my knife and then chop it through the walnuts and the pumpkin seeds. Now, a little bit of raw garlic goes a long way in a pesto. Probably don't need all this parsley, but once again, scrunching it all together. And then I'm going to get my nasturtium leaves. There, that's good for me. Parsley and nasturtiums go in. For the last couple of minutes of the soup, I'm going to prod a bit of thyme right down into the middle. Just stripping the soft thyme leaves off there. Finally, these chives. Let's not forget these hemp kernels. They don't need chopping at all. They're already a lovely fine texture. We can sprinkle them in quite generously. Because we're doubling up on almost everything today, I'm going to make this a 2-oil pesto. So I'm doing extra virgin olive oil and cold pressed rapeseed oil. Mustn't forget the pepper. Go back with the oil. The soup is pretty much done. Just going to turn it off and it can keep its heat. The pesto's almost done. One last thing, just a little squeeze of lemon. I don't want the pips in, but just a few drops of lemon in a pesto just takes that richness, the edge off the oiliness of it, freshens it up beautifully. So we've got a 17 plant soup and a 12 plant pesto. That's 29 plants. It leaves us one short of the magic 30 plants a week, which is what Tim and others say is a really good thing to aim for. It's just the sort of peak of all the benefits from eating a lot of plants. Do we count the nasturtium flower as a separate plant? I think I just did. Right, let's go and have a 30 plant feast. You'll find the recipes for my half the garden soup and pesto omega on the ZOE website and app. And that's not all. There's a little bonus for you. This is my seeded almond cake, a multi-plant treat in itself. Even more so when you serve it with these gorgeous autumn berries, golden raspberries, autumn bliss raspberries and alpine strawberries. Look, I'm not the only one who's been grafting here this afternoon. Everybody has been so brilliant. Come on round. Who's for a bowl of soup? Or is anyone going to go straight for cake? Someone's straight for cake. There, Georgia, bowl of soup.
Thank you.
Blob of pesto.
Definitely.
I'll tell you what, why don't you dish up the soup and I'll slice some cake
Thank
and
you.
we'll get things moving. Holly, straight for the cake, is it?
Yes, please.
There you go.
5 plants.
Wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, 4 seeds, 3 seeds, ground almonds, and of course some whole wheat flour, which counts. Plenty of berries.
Yeah.
You're pretty perfect.
Would you like a blob of
Thank
yogurt?
Absolutely.
You too, come on now. There we go. I think there are some forks over there. For me, being healthy isn't about fad diets or pumping iron down at the gym. It's about enjoying life, eating good food, being out in nature. But it is definitely about looking after your gut health too.